Hawks Bucks game 5 tonight. The Bucks will be losing a lot of production with the absence of Giannis, as the Greek Freak is averaging 28 points, just under 13 rebounds, along with 5 assists in these playoffs. He will be the 10th All-Star to miss time this postseason. Trae Young also questionable to play tonight. The 22-year-old averaging just under 30 points, 10 assists this postseason. Talk about production. Max Kellerman.
Yeah.
Max, which star return is more important for their respective team in advancing in this series?
The answer is Giannis. I mean, I just saw no Giannis, no Trae Young. What happens? The Hawks won. The Hawks won because Lou Will can do an impersonation of Trae Young. He's a real good scorer, and he was even dishing some assists because Bogdanovich can play, because they have guys. Herter can play, and they have guys who are stepping up. That is not what, look, the Bucks were supposed to have the third and fourth best player in this series. Giannis and Trae Young are the two best, and the third and fourth best player were supposed to be Middleton and Drew Holiday. That has not always been the case. The reason, Stephen A., they're not perennial all-stars is because they're not usually great. They are sometimes great. They're usually good, sometimes great. And without Giannis, those two especially need to step up. But what happened? Middleton drops 38, looks like MJ one game, and the next night Cam Reddish shuts him down? Can't happen. But it's what happened. Giannis, Stephen A., could have just won his third MVP. The only reason he didn't, because he put up the same numbers he did in back-to-back seasons when he won MVP, is because got a little fatigue giving him back-to-back awards, and we also what happened in the postseason. And that kind of got held against him because he had the same season 3 years in a row. He is normally a more effective player even than Trae Young, and that's saying a lot. And they need him now more than ever.
We disagree because I believe the Milwaukee Bucks, even without Giannis Antetokounmpo, have the talent and the experience to beat the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young is averaging 32 and 6 this series on 47.9% shooting from the field. Now, I don't know what damn Atlanta Hawks game you watching, but Lou Williams can't imitate that. Not that average. He can have a game, but that's not what Lou Williams does. He can put up buckets, and we've seen him put up buckets in prolific fashion, but not in the last couple of years, not on this level. Trae Young is cat quick. He can pass the ball. He forces you to spread your defense out, opening up lanes for guys on the interior, not to mention creating open shots for other dudes, as opposed to just taking dudes off the dribble one-on-one or catching and shooting like Lou Williams does. Here's the reality of the situation, and this is why I continue to say he's the most important player, because without Trae Young, I don't believe the Hawks have a chance of winning this series. If Trae Young is there, you have a chance even with Giannis healthy. So imagine what chance you'd have without Giannis there. That's how I view it. I think with Middleton and Drew Holiday, what they're supposed to be, Max, should be enough to beat the Hawks, which is a more accurate way to say that. What they're supposed to be with the Atlanta Hawks. With the Atlanta Hawks, it's all about Trae. If you're talking about getting to the NBA Finals, it's all about Trae.
What they're supposed to be, I agree with you. And that's what I'm challenging. You know, it's not like Collins had a great game last game, but he might be the third best player in the series. Like, you have some guys to choose from. Who's the third or fourth best player in the series? Brand name-wise, it's Middleton and Holiday. They've been around. They've each made at least one all-star team. Middleton's made two. But in fact, not just by reputation, but in fact, that has not always been the case, even in this series. And that's the problem. Giannis is the guy that makes the Bucks, oh, wait a minute, you got to deal with this. And now, hey, let's get a little contribution from Middleton. We can win this thing. But without Giannis, not only does Middleton have to show up every night, but Drew Holiday has to take over running the offense. Now, I think they could do it. I thought they could, especially against the team in Atlanta. It's not like they're playing Brooklyn. But they got to do it. They haven't done it so far.
Yeah, but I think that what you're trying to say is that they have to do it, and I'm saying one of them has to do it. If one does it without the other, they could still beat the Hawks. If Trae Young ain't there to do it, they ain't winning. They're not winning.
I think your argument would be...
That's what I'm saying.
I think your argument would be a lot more persuasive, and I might have even agreed with it had I not just seen it in Game 4.
Well, you got to remember. Well, you got to remember, it's a couple of things that happen, right? the Milwaukee Bucks gave up their lead in the first half. And then you remember they came storming back, and Giannis was unstoppable. And you sort of got the impression, okay, they stole one from us in game one. We stomped them in game two. We came back and took game three and reclaimed home court advantage. And not only that, Max Kellerman, even though I know this is not a popular thing to say, Max and Molly, but I'll say it for you anyway.
Okay.
I keep telling y'all, distractions matter. And when you're in a place like the ATL and you have an off night, Now, it's one thing if you're played and you got back-to-back and there's no nights off and then you're flying into that city the same day. But when you got time to hang out in places like the ATL, it might take you a little while to get your game together before you turn on the afterburners. Just trust me on this.
An unpopular thing to say, but let's be honest, both teams need their stars. Let's keep it rolling here, guys. Led by heading back to the finals for the first time since 1993, Chris Paul is going for the first time in his career. CP3, what do you think?
Chris Paul is in the NBA Finals. What do you think when you hear that sentence?
Man, it sounds damn good. Damn good. It's been a lot of work, man. A lot of work. Going to a new team, everybody staying the course. That team fight hard. T. Lue, unbelievable coach. Chauncey Billups, my big brother. So many ties to that team. But damn, this feels good.
We knew they broke. We knew we broke them. I mean, it's no better sign of defeat than knowing that moment. You know, that moment where it's like competition meets and you can't do anything else to help your team overcome that situation. He's just broke. And that's what we was trying to reach.
All right, so Patrick Beverley, who was ejected in the fourth quarter after shoving Chris Paul in the back, tweeted this apology. CP3, emotions got the best of me last night, gang. My bad. Wasn't meant for you. Congrats on making it to the finals. Best of luck. Stephen A. Smith. Yeah. Did the Suns break the Clippers?
Well, they clearly broke the Clippers, and it's sad for me to say it's rare that I'm critical of Patrick Beverley because I love the kid. I know him, I know his family, but that was real Bush League, what he did, and I was really, really happy to see him go out on Twitter and apologize for what he did. That was completely uncalled for. It warrants a suspension and definitely a dock and pay. There is no question about that. That's something that was excessive and completely unnecessary for him to do. Because you never know what could have been the physical repercussions from just a push. If Chris Paul had landed wrong way or anything like that, you just never know. No excuse. You'll whiplash that too. There's no excuse for that whatsoever. And so I was really happy to see him do it. He's better than that. Patrick Beverley's better than that. He's a professional pest, but he's intense. He works hard and he goes after it. And he can be on my team any day of the week. But I was pretty ashamed of what I saw from him last night. There was no excuse for that. So it's good to see him apologize because he's a much better person than that. I can tell you, as somebody who knows him personally, I can tell you that. Having said all of that, they clearly broke him. They clearly broke him because after, being up 3-1 and then losing to the Clippers in Game 5, they stepped in the Staples Center on their home court, and everything the Clippers gave them last night, Phoenix Suns had an answer for, primarily CP3. Little Devin Booker sprinkled in there as well, and Crowder hitting a couple of threes early and what have you. That definitely contributed, but in the end, it was the greatness of CP3 who reminded them there's levels to this. And apparently the Clippers still have a few dudes that ain't on that level. And that's what happened last night. And so when you're losing, and you're losing in convincing fashion, if it were a nail biter down the stretch and stuff happened, that would be different. But when somebody is busting your living, you know what, like CP3 was doing to all of them last night and just answering everything they threw at them, hey, that's what happens, and that's what it did. I remember, I know CP3 definitely did an acting job because DeMarcus Cousins did not connect with the elbow. But what DeMarcus Cousins missed is that the camera caught his intent. He clearly tried to hit him with the elbow and just missed. And so CP3 did a great acting job and compromised the Clippers in that regard as well. In the end, the Clippers knew that they didn't have enough, and they resorted to some tactics that are highly questionable. And it's just sad that it ended that way, but it's not that sad because everything is all right. Everybody's okay. And that's where you go with it.
The Suns did not break the Clippers. They may have broke Patrick Beverley, but Patrick Beverley fixed himself by sending out that tweet, Stephen A. I agree with you. He messed up. He was, Chris Paul was going off. Patrick Beverley was helpless to do anything about it. He's a very competitive guy. His emotions got the better of him. He messed up, and then he owned it. So So there's that. But I don't think they broke the clip. Look, the Clippers are clearly better than the Suns. They were missing their best player. Kawhi Leonard didn't play, and they still were playing in a game 6. And by the way, that was with the Suns. They won those 2 games at home without Chris Paul by the skin of their teeth. They were lucky to get 2 home wins by 1 possession when the other team didn't have their best player. Come on. That's not getting broken. That's actually showing you that the Clippers are better than the Suns. They just weren't. If you take the best player off of any team, usually even the second best player, they can't win. Of course not, especially in a team that was constructed top-heavy. And all the best teams are constructed top-heavy. Any team that can get their hands on an MVP caliber max contract player does. And any team that can get 2 of them, they do that too. And if one of them isn't there, AD, James Harden, Kyrie Irving, we've seen it throughout these playoffs. If one of them isn't there, that team's not going to win, period. It was a valiant effort by KD to get to a game 7. Even though they lost 4 out of 5, it was a valiant effort for any team to extend a series without their best player. That's all that happened to the Clippers.
You were born in the Bronx, were you not?
Correct.
Bronx, New York, right?
That's right. Albert Einstein Hospital.
So was I, raised in Hollis, Queens, New York. I was born in Harlem Hospital, by the way. But here's the deal, Max Kellerman. Sometimes you open your mouth, and I wonder if you have ever picked up a basketball and played in the park. I really do. I find myself scratching my head. Have you ever physically competed on any level in anything? Because, Max Kellerman, the fact that Kawhi Leonard was injured has nothing to do with the point that's being made about the Suns breaking the Clippers. Because when you're on the court without your guy, all you're thinking about in that moment is how you're feeling. You're not thinking about, oh, well, you know what, we all right because we know we better than them if we had Kawhi. You might think about that when you go in the locker room. You might think about that today, now that you're 12 plus hours removed from getting eliminated from the postseason, as you go through your exit interviews and you have an opportunity to reflect on the season that was and that could have been had you had all your ducks in a row. But in that moment, as they were playing this game last night, trying to overcome one deficit after another, after mounting another, okay? You're not thinking about, oh, well, we're supposed to be in this position because Kawhi Leonard is here. But Kawhi Leonard isn't here. You're thinking about the fact that these brothers are giving it to you. And there's little to nothing that you seem capable of doing about it at that moment.
Fine, but let's do it another way. Okay, let's say this
another way. I mean, can you at least address, can you at least concede
I'm addressing it.
that what I just said is right?
I'm addressing it right now.
Go ahead.
So the Atlanta Hawks are a team with a lot of fight in them. I think it's safe to say, it's fair to say, the Atlanta Hawks now are a team with a lot of fight in them. Just because their best player isn't there in Trae Young, they don't just fold, okay, let's go home. They play through it, and they actually got a win. Now, it's at home. You're right. They had certain advantages you brought up earlier, but they did it without Trae Young. Now, if Trae Young, for whatever reason, never came back to this series, but Giannis did. Let's say Giannis was playing in Game 5, and the Hawks lost in 6 games, and they didn't have Trae Young. Would we be saying the Bucks broke the Hawks? Or would we give credit to the Hawks? Hold on. Do we give credit to the Hawks for winning a couple games without Trae Young?
Do I get to answer that, or are those rhetorical questions? Because I have the answer.
Well, the Clippers just did that. Aren't you going to credit them for winning 2 games against a team they didn't have their best player?
We're not. That's not the question. When the question was, did they break the Clippers? In other words, if you're the Clippers, how are you feeling at that particular moment? What are you going through? We're not taking any credit away from the fact that the Clippers advanced to the conference finals for the first time in their 51-year history, that they've gone farther than any other Clippers franchise has ever gone. We're not ignoring the fact that Kawhi Leonard was hurt because we know if he was healthy, they'd probably be the ones heading to the finals instead of Phoenix. We concede all of that. But the point is, if you're the Los Angeles Clippers on the court, then we got to take into account, Max, the personalities. A Trae Young, a John Collins, a Danilo Gallinari, a Lou Williams, a Kevin Huerter. Their personalities, I think anybody that watches these teams play, the personalities are a little bit different than DeMarcus Cousins, Patrick Beverley, Marcus Morris Sr., guys like that.
Well,
it's
hold on.
a little
If
bit
you're gonna
different.
if you're going to say break, the way I take that to mean is not just you're feeling bad. It's like you give up at a certain point. You got, like, what Jay Crowder's talking about is they knew they couldn't win. At a certain point, Stephen A., it's mathematical. You know there's not enough time to come back. And that's what happened. And that's to Chris Paul's credit, not to the discredit of the Clippers. So at a certain point, the Clippers understood, damn, we don't have enough time to come back. You want to call that the moment they got broken? No.
Well,
that's the moment you knew they were going to lose. You watching on TV, you knew the same as the Clippers knew.
Well,
that's different than getting broken, like you've given up, like you can't do anything about it.
You're the only person I know that would have that definition of being broken.
You think broken? So what's the definition?
Let me finish. Be quiet and let me finish. I'm not talking about them giving up. I'm saying things that get you out of your character. Clearly, many, many times throughout professional sports history, not just with basketball, but with football and other sports, particularly where physical confrontations taking place, as opposed to you playing baseball and you're in an outfield or something like that. When you have competition and you are at your wit's end, there are many instances where people get out of character because they can't deal with the level of frustration and disappointment that comes with losing in that fashion. So that's what I mean by being broken, where you have deviated from your normal form of character and you've gotten a bit worse because the circumstances are a bit too much for you to take. It doesn't mean you gave up. It means that, unfortunately, you're conceding and succumbing to reality. And I'm saying to you, Patrick Beverley showed it physically, but mentally and emotionally, if you're watching this game unfold, particularly as Chris Paul just closed the deal on them last night, they were all getting a bit out of character because that's what they are. Atlanta's not like that. Atlanta's built a little bit differently. Their mental makeup is a little bit different. The Clippers, who pride themselves on being rough riders, overcoming one piece of odd after another, 0-2 deficits in the previous two series, you understand, got guys on their team that are known for being a bit truculent, are known for being a bit acerbic and really coming at you in different ways than just playing the game.
Yeah.
They had to succumb to Chris Paul and the younger Phoenix Suns last night, and it was a little bit much for them to take.
Guys, before we go to break, I just want to give you this note because we're talking about teams with a lot of fight. At the beginning of the season, the Suns had the 13th best odds to make it to a title. The Hawks, the 18th best odds. Unbelievable when you think about it. Nobody picking either team. We'll keep it going here. Still to come.